Welcome to the Listen and Sleep channel. Today we'll journey to the origins of ancient wisdom, to the world of Vipassana, meditation of insight that reveals the nature of mind. Get comfortable. Allow your body to relax. Let your breathing become slow and deep. Today there's no hurry, no tasks to solve. There's only this moment and a story that unfolds like a quiet river, carrying us toward understanding of what was always near but remained unnoticed. Close your eyes. Feel how air gently touches skin. Hear the silence that surrounds you, and allow yourself to immerse in a world where each word is a step along the path of inner peace. Silence. It was always there. Before the first word, before the first thought, before the first question about who we are. In ancient forests of India, where sunlight broke through dense tree crowns in soft golden rays, where bird songs mixed with rustling leaves, this silence was felt especially keenly. Here, among majestic banyans and blooming jasmine, people first noticed something amazing. They sat, simply sat, backs straight, but not tense, eyes closed or half closed, gaze directed inward. And in this stillness, in this silence, they began to see what had previously escaped them. Thoughts. They came and went like clouds in sky, appeared from nowhere, floated for some time across inner horizon, then dissolved, making room for new ones. But who is the one who observes these clouds of thoughts? Who remains unchanged when everything else flows and changes? This question didn't require answer in words. It required immersion, silence, attention. Vipassana. This word was born from this ancient discovery. Vi means in a special way. Passana means to see. To see in a special way. Not with eyes that look at world around, but with inner gaze that turns to the very nature of experience. This is not religion, not belief in something unprovable. This is practice, investigation, experiment with one's own consciousness. Imagine a monk sitting under Bodhi tree in pre-dawn hour. Air is cool, saturated with aroma of blooming sacred land. Somewhere in distance, a stream murmurs. Wind barely audibly whispers in branches. And in this atmosphere of perfect silence, the monk does something revolutionary. He turns to face his own mind. He doesn't try to stop thoughts, doesn't fight them, doesn't judge them as good or bad. He simply observes. Like a naturalist studying behavior of wild animals, he studies behavior of his own consciousness. Thought arose. He notices this. Thought disappeared, and he notices this too. Desire appeared, he notices. Resistance arose, and this becomes object of quiet, curious attention. In this observation, there's something magical. When you begin to look at your thoughts from outside, they lose power over you. Anxiety ceases to be your anxiety. It becomes simply anxiety that comes and goes. Anger ceases to define you. It becomes temporary visitor in house of your consciousness. Joy also doesn't become less bright from being observed. On contrary, it gains special purity, special depth. First practitioners didn't know word psychology, had no concept of neuroscience, but they discovered what modern scientists confirm today: human ability to observe own mental processes radically changes relationship with them. It's as if all your life you thought you were river, and then suddenly discovered you're the bank along which river flows. Let's pause here for a moment. Feel how your body breathes. Notice if there are thoughts in mind now. Don't try to change or evaluate them. Simply notice. Perhaps now you're thinking about what you're hearing, or planning tomorrow, or remembering something from past. Whatever it is, it's normal, and you can notice it. This is first step of Vipassana, simple, friendly awareness of what's happening in your inner world right now. Ancient masters said Vipassana is not technique you apply. It's rather way of life, way of being in world. When you walk along forest path, you can walk thinking about something else, or you can feel each step, hear each sound, sense how air enters lungs and exits them. Second way is Vipassana in motion. In those ancient forests where this practice originated, time flowed differently. There was no hurry, no endless list of tasks. There was only life in its immediate givenness, and in this slowing down, in this absence of rush, things opened up that usually remain unnoticed, subtle nuances of mood, almost imperceptible sensations in body, barely noticeable shifts in perception. Vipassana teaches us same art of subtle attention. But for this, you don't need to go to forest or become monk. This can be learned here and now. In any moment, you can stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What's happening in body? What sensations are there in heart area, in belly, in head? Not to change something, but simply to be aware, to be home in your own life. And then something amazing begins to happen. Life becomes brighter, more alive. Not because something changed on outside, but because you begin to be present in it more fully. When you eat, you truly taste. When you hug close person, you feel warmth of this touch. When you look at sunset, you see not just familiar picture, but living play of light and color. Silence that was always there begins to sound. It sounds in pause between words, in space between thoughts, in moment between inhale and exhale. And in this sounding of silence, something opens that cannot be named in words, but can be felt by heart. Peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Joy that needs no reason. Love that requires no object. Breath. It's always with you. From first inhale after birth to last exhale at end of life. But how often do you notice it? How often do you stop to feel this simple miracle? How air enters lungs, saturates blood with oxygen, nourishes every cell of body, then gently leaves you, taking away what's no longer needed. In ancient texts written on palm leaves, yellowed by time, breath is called first teacher. Not because it can speak, but because it always honestly shows what's happening in your inner world right now. When you're anxious, breath becomes fast and shallow. When you relax, it slows down and deepens. When you're focused, it becomes even and calm. Imagine monastery somewhere in mountains. Dawn is just beginning. First rays of sun paint sky in gentle shades of pink and gold. In meditation hall, where air is permeated with subtle aroma of incense, people sit, men and women, young and elderly, those just beginning their path, and those practicing for many years. all of them do same thing. They breathe and observe their breathing. But this is not ordinary breathing. This is conscious breathing. Breathing that becomes bridge between body and mind, between outer world and inner space. When attention gently rests on breath, something magical happens. Thoughts begin to calm down, body relaxes, and special clarity appears in mind. It begins simply. You sit comfortably, but with straight back. You can close eyes or leave them half open, looking at floor in front with soft, unfocused gaze. And then you simply notice breath. Don't try to control or change it. Simply observe as it is. Where do you feel breath most clearly? Perhaps it's movement of belly that rises on inhale and falls on exhale like soft wave. Or it's sensations in chest area that expands and contracts in natural rhythm. Or maybe your attention is attracted to touch of air at nostrils, cool on inhale and warm on exhale. Choose place where breath is felt most clearly and allow attention to gently rest there, like cat that settled on sunny windowsill. Attention simply rests on breath, not straining, not grasping, not trying to hold each sensation. And here begins real discovery. You discover that each inhale is unique. Each exhale somehow differs from previous one. Sometimes breath is deep and slow, sometimes more shallow and fast. Sometimes there's natural pause after exhale. Sometimes inhale comes immediately. All this happens by itself, without your intervention, and you can simply observe this natural dance of life in your body. But mind, accustomed to constant activity, doesn't immediately agree to such simplicity. Thoughts begin to come, first one, then another. Suddenly, you notice you're no longer following breath, but planning tomorrow's tasks or remembering yesterday's conversation. And this is normal. This is not mistake, not failure in practice. This is simply how mind works. Ancient teachers compared mind to mischievous puppy that can't sit still. It runs to one tree, then to another, then gets distracted by flying butterfly, then starts digging hole. And what do you do with such puppy? Don't scold it, don't punish. You gently, with love, again and again, return it to place where it should be. Same thing with mind in breath meditation. Noticed you got distracted. This is already awareness. Gently, without self-blame, you return attention to breath. Got distracted again. Return again. And each such return is not failure. It's success. It's moment of awakening, moment of mindfulness. In this simple practice, deep wisdom is hidden. You learn not to cling to pleasant states and not to fight unpleasant ones. If breath feels wonderful, you notice this, but don't try to hold this feeling. If breath seems boring or difficult, you accept this too, with same calmness. You learn to be with what is, not adding to it your expectations and demands. Gradually, day by day, practice deepens. You begin to notice subtle nuances of breathing process that previously escaped. Perhaps you discover that between inhale and exhale, there's natural pause, moment of complete stillness, like pause between notes in music. Or you notice that breath not only moves in lungs, but creates soft waves throughout body. And in this deepened attention to breath, something greater opens. Breath becomes anchor in present moment. When mind wanders into past or future, breath gently returns you to here and now. When emotions become too intense, breath gives support, place where you can find stability and peace. Breath teaches patience. You cannot force it to be different from what it is right now. You can only accept it as it is. And in this acceptance, special wisdom is born. Understanding that resistance to reality creates suffering, while accepting it as it is brings peace. Ancient masters knew that breath is not simply physiological process. It's bridge between conscious and unconscious, between voluntary and involuntary, between individual and universal. In breath, body, and spirit meet. And when attention fully rests in this meeting, boundaries begin to dissolve. You breathe air that thousands of people breathed before you. Oxygen that now nourishes your body was once part of tree that grew in distant forest. Carbon dioxide you exhale will tomorrow become food for plant. In breath, there's nothing yours in absolute sense. Everything belongs to great cycle of life, of which you're part. And when this understanding comes, not as intellectual concept, but as living experience, deep gratitude is born in heart. Gratitude for this simple gift, possibility to breathe, to be alive, to be part of this unseen cosmic dance. Your body speaks, always, continuously, in language of sensations, tensions, warmth and coolness, lightness and heaviness. But how often do you listen to it? How often do you stop to feel what's happening under skin, in depth of muscles, in subtle vibrations that permeate every cell? In ancient practice of Vipassana, there's special way of listening to body. It's called scanning, slow, attentive journey of attention through entire body, from crown of head to tips of toes. This is not medical examination and not search for problems. It's rather gentle dialogue with body's wisdom that knows about you much more than thinking mind. Imagine quiet room in old monastery. Stone walls keep coolness even on hot day. Through narrow windows, soft light breaks through, creating play of light and shadow on floor. In this space, where every sound seems sacred, person lies on simple mat and begins one of most intimate journeys, journey into own body. He begins with crown of head, gently directs attention there, as if illuminating this area with gentle light of awareness. What's felt there? Perhaps light tingling, or warmth, or maybe no special sensations at all? All this is normal. There are no right or wrong sensations. There's only what is right now. Attention slowly descends lower. Forehead. Is there tension here? Wrinkles that betray habitual worry? Or, on contrary, smoothness, relaxation? Eyelids. Are they gently lowered or slightly trembling? Cheeks. Warm or cool? Jaws. Clenched from habitual stress, or relaxed and slightly open? And here something amazing begins to happen. Body begins to respond to attention. Areas where awareness is directed often begin to relax by themselves, as if they were only waiting to finally be noticed, acknowledged, accepted as they are. Attention continues its slow journey. Neck. This area that so often holds tension of our time. Tension between head and heart, between thoughts and feelings. Shoulders. Are they raised as if carrying invisible burden of worries? Or lowered, allowing arms to rest freely along body? Arms. Right arm. Shoulder. Forearm. Hand. Each finger separately. Left arm. And again. Shoulder. Forearm. Hand. Fingers. It's amazing how differently right and left sides of body can feel. One may seem heavier, other lighter. One warmer, other cooler. No need to analyze this. Enough to simply notice. Chest. Here, heart beats. Faithful companion that doesn't stop for moment from first day of life. Can you feel its rhythm? Not so much hear as sense this soft pulsation of life. And what about breathing? How does chest move? Freely? Widely? Or are there some limitations? Tightness. Belly. This area that responds so sensitively to emotions. Fear and anxiety are often felt right here as tightness, cold, emptiness. But there can be other sensations. Warmth, relaxation, softness, or complete absence of bright sensations. And this too is information. This too is way body speaks to you. Back, spine. This amazing structure that holds us in vertical position and at same time remains flexible. Lower back, middle, upper. Somewhere there may be tension, somewhere relaxation. Body honestly tells story of your life, how you sit, how you move, what emotions you carry in yourself. Pelvis, hips. This area of strength and stability. Legs, right thigh, knee, shin, foot. Left thigh, knee, shin, foot. Toes. These small, often forgotten parts of body that nevertheless play important role in our balance, in our connection with earth. But body scanning in Vipassana is not simply cataloging sensations. This is learning acceptance. When you discover tension in shoulders, first impulse may be desire to relax it. When you feel pain in back, want to remove it. But Vipassana teaches different approach. First, acceptance. Complete, unconditional acceptance of what is. Tension in shoulders is not your enemy. It's signal, information about how body reacts to life. pain in back is not punishment. It's also form of body's communication with consciousness. And when you stop fighting these sensations, when you accept them with same calmness with which you accept pleasant sensations, something amazing happens. They often begin to change by themselves. Not because you try to change them, but because acceptance creates space for natural healing. Body knows how to heal itself, but for this, it needs not fight and resistance, but attention and acceptance. In practice of body scanning, you also begin to understand one of fundamental truths of Vipassana. Everything is impermanent. Sensations come and go. What was pain a minute ago can turn into warmth. What felt like tension can dissolve into softness. And what seemed pleasant can be replaced by neutral sensations. This impermanence can be frustrating at first. Why don't good sensations stay? But gradually, understanding comes. In this changeability, there's freedom. If unpleasant sensations are impermanent, there's no reason to despair over them. If pleasant sensations are impermanent, there's no point in clinging to them. You can simply allow everything to be as it is and observe this constant dance of changes. Practicing body scanning regularly, you begin to develop special sensitivity. You begin to notice subtle body signals long before they turn into serious problems. Fatigue that you used to ignore now becomes signal for rest. Tension that used to accumulate for weeks is now noticed and dissolved during day. But most important thing this practice gives is return home to own body. In world where we live so much in head, in thoughts, plans, and worries, body becomes anchor of reality. It's always here, always in present moment. And when you learn to listen to it, life gains special fullness, special depth. Thoughts. They flow in continuous stream from moment of waking to moment of falling asleep. And perhaps in sleep, they continue their dance in form of dreams. But what is thought? Where does it come from? Where does it disappear? And who is the one who observes it? Sitting under ancient tree in quiet monastery garden, where jasmine aroma mixes with light smoke of incense, practitioner of Vipassana makes amazing discovery. He discovers that between him and his thoughts there's space, that thoughts are not him himself, but something that passes through space of his consciousness, like clouds pass through sky. This discovery is revolutionary. All our life, we identify with thoughts. I think, therefore I am. But Vipassana shows different reality. I observe thoughts, therefore I'm more than thoughts. I'm space in which thoughts arise, exist for some time, and then dissolve. Observation of thoughts begins simply. You sit in meditation, follow breath, and suddenly notice thought appeared. Maybe it's memory of yesterday, or plan for tomorrow, or simply random image, friend's face, taste of apple, song melody. Usually in such moment, we lose ourselves in content of thought. Immerse in it. Begin to develop it. But in Vipassana, different approach is offered. Noticed thought. Simply note to yourself thought and gently return attention to breath. Doesn't matter what thought is about. What matters is ability itself to notice it, not get carried away by it, and return to object of meditation. At first, this seems impossible. Thoughts come one after another, like waves during storm. Just noticed one and two more already appeared. Mind seems unmanageable, chaotic. But this is not problem that needs to be solved. This is simply how mind works in its natural state. And first step to wisdom is to see this with own eyes. Ancient teachers compared untrained mind to drunk monkey stung by scorpion. It rushes from one object to another, cannot stop at anything for more than few moments. But they also said that this restless mind need not be feared or ashamed of. It needs to be understood. As practice progresses, interesting patterns begin to emerge. You notice that thoughts have as if their own rhythm. Sometimes they come frequently, sometimes less often. Sometimes they're bright and intrusive, sometimes dim and barely noticeable. Sometimes they're connected by logical chain. Sometimes appear completely randomly. You also begin to notice that thoughts are colored by emotions. Thought about upcoming meeting may carry anxiety. Memory of pleasant event, joy. Reflection on injustice, anger. And these emotions are not separate from thoughts. They as if permeate them, give them special coloring, special power, But most important discovery comes gradually. Thoughts don't possess power over you that's usually attributed to them. Anxious thought cannot make you anxious if you simply observe it. Angry thought doesn't make you angry person. Sad thought doesn't have to plunge you into depression. This doesn't mean you should suppress thoughts or pretend they're not there. On contrary, Vipassana teaches complete acceptance of everything that arises in mind. Anxious thought came. Good. I see anxious thought. Anger appeared. I notice anger. Sadness arose. I'm aware of sadness. Without resistance, without fight, but also without identification. In this observation of thoughts, amazing truth opens. Most thoughts repeat. Each person has their own set of favorite topics for reflection, their own mental habits. Someone often thinks about past, someone about future. Someone is inclined to self-criticism, someone to planning. These thinking patterns formed over years, and Vipassana allows you to see them clearly, without embellishment. To see, not to judge yourself for wrong thoughts, but to understand mechanism of own mind's work. This understanding itself is liberating. When you know you're prone to anxious thoughts, appearance of another anxious thought no longer catches you off guard. You can note to yourself, here it is, my old friend anxiety, and not get carried away by it. Gradually, in practice of observing thoughts, moments of silence begin to appear. Gaps between thoughts become more noticeable. Sometimes it's just fraction of second. Sometimes several seconds of complete mental silence. In these moments, mind is like smooth lake in which sky is reflected. This silence between thoughts is not emptiness. It's fullness of different kind. In it, there's awareness, but no content. There's presence, but no object. There's being, but no becoming. Ancients called this natural state of mind, peace that need not be created because it's already there under layer of thoughts. And then relationship with thoughts radically changes. You cease to be victim of your mind and become its wise observer. Thoughts continue to come. This is normal and natural, but they no longer control your life. You can choose which thoughts deserve attention and which can simply be let go. you gain inner freedom that doesn't depend on content of your thoughts. Emotions come like weather, unexpectedly, unpredictably, with their own strength and character. Joy can sweep in like warm spring wind, filling entire being with lightness and light. Anger can surge like summer storm, with thunder and lightning shaking everything inside. Sadness can cover like autumn fog, softly and sadly enveloping heart. And fear can descend like winter blizzard, making you seek shelter in most hidden corners of soul. In ancient texts about Vipassana, emotions are called guests in House of Consciousness. They come without invitation, stay as long as they need, not as long as we want, and leave in their time. And wisdom lies not in not letting them into house or driving them out by force, but in being good host, receiving each guest with dignity, not identifying with them completely, and allowing them to leave when their time comes. Imagine person sitting in meditation in quiet room, where only sound is measured ticking of old clock. He follows breath, observes thoughts, and suddenly familiar sensation appears in chest. Anxiety. It begins with barely noticeable worry, like light ripples on surface of calm lake, but gradually grows, intensifies, turning into real storm. In ordinary life, at such moment, we either run from emotion, distract ourselves, suppress it, pretend it's not there, or completely immerse in it, lose ourselves in its whirlpool. But Vipassana offers third way of conscious presence with emotion. Person in meditation doesn't run from anxiety and doesn't fight it. He turns to face it, like old acquaintance he hasn't seen for long time. Hello, anxiety. I see you. I feel how you live in my body. Where exactly? In chest, there's tightness. In belly, coldness. In throat, lump. Breathing became faster and shallower. Thoughts scattered like frightened birds. And in this attentive, detailed observation, something amazing happens. Emotion doesn't disappear instantly. That would be unrealistic. But it loses its tyrannical power. Space appears between person and their anxiety. Space of awareness in which one can breathe, can observe, can be with what is without losing oneself in it completely. Anxiety is still here, but now there's someone who observes it. And this observer is calm, stable, doesn't give in to panic. He's like lighthouse in storm, motionless, reliable, shining through darkness. And gradually, at its own pace, anxiety begins to subside, like storm subsides after it unleashes all its force. Work with emotions in Vipassana is based on several important principles. First, all emotions have right to exist. There are no bad or good emotions. There are simply different states through which human psyche passes. Anger is not worse than joy. Fear is not less valuable than love. Each emotion carries information. Each says something about our inner world. Second principle, emotions are impermanent. However strong emotion may be in given moment, it will change. This is not philosophical concept, but living experience that can be verified again and again. Most intense joy doesn't last forever. Deepest sadness sooner or later recedes. Strongest anger gradually cools down. Third principle, resistance to emotions intensifies suffering. When we try to push away unpleasant emotion, we add to original pain another pain, pain of resistance. If sadness is rain, then resistance to sadness is anger at rain that cannot stop it, but makes us even more unhappy. Practice of working with emotions in Vipassana begins with developing ability to notice them. Many people live in constant emotional fog, not realizing what exactly they're feeling at each specific moment. There's general sense of discomfort, or on contrary, uplift, but specific emotions remain unrecognized. Vipassana teaches emotional literacy. In meditation, you learn to distinguish subtle nuances of feelings. This is not simply sadness. It's melancholy, with shade of nostalgia. This is not simply anger. It's irritation mixed with disappointment. This is not simply joy. It's gratitude intertwined with tranquility. This precision in recognizing emotions helps not only in meditation, but in daily life. When you know exactly what you feel, it becomes easier to understand what to do with it. If it's fatigue, rest is needed. If it's loneliness, human warmth is needed. If it's anxiety about future, need to return to present moment. But deepest thing that work with emotions in Vipassana reveals is understanding that you're greater than any emotion you experience. You can experience anger, but you're not anger. You can feel fear, but you're not fear. There's something in you that remains unchanged despite all emotional storms. This is pure awareness, ability to know what's happening without dissolving in it completely. This awareness is like sky, and emotions are clouds. Clouds can be dark or light, can cover sun, or on contrary, create beautiful patterns. But sky remains sky, regardless of what clouds float across it. And when you find in yourself this inner sky, emotional life becomes richer, fuller, but at the same time less dramatic, less destructive. There's truth that permeates everything existing, from tiny drop of dew on grass blade to distant galaxies rotating in cosmic silence, from fleeting thought to entire human life. This truth is simple, and at the same time deep to point of dizziness. Everything changes, always, without exceptions, without stopping. Ancient sages sitting under shade of mighty trees where play of light and shadow created constantly changing pattern on ground, were first to clearly see this fundamental nature of reality. They observed how morning dew evaporates under first rays of sun, how flowers bloom and wither, how seasons replace each other in endless dance of life and death, birth and dissolution. But most amazing discovery awaited them inside. In deep meditation, they discovered that world of inner experience also obeys same law of impermanence. Thought arises and disappears. Sensation appears and dissolves. Emotion rolls in wave and rolls back. Even most stable state of consciousness turns out to be fluid, changeable, impermanent. At first, this discovery can be frightening. We're so used to seeking support in permanent, reliable, unchanging. We want happy moments to last forever, beloved people never to leave us, youth and health not to fade. And when Vipassana shows us that nothing at all remains unchanged, heart can tighten with longing at first. But gradually, through patient observation, through gentle acceptance of what is, different understanding comes. In impermanence is hidden not threat, but liberation. If everything changes, then suffering too cannot last forever. If everything flows, then even heaviest pain will sooner or later recede. If everything is impermanent, there's nothing to cling to with desperation, and nothing to avoid with horror. In practice of Vipassana, observation of impermanence becomes one of deepest insights. You sit in meditation, follow breath, and notice. Each inhale is unique. Each exhale is unrepeatable. Sensations in body constantly change. What was warm a second ago becomes neutral. What felt like tension gently dissolves. What seemed pleasant disappears, leaving room for new sensations. Thoughts also demonstrate their transient nature. Idea that seemed important and captivating a minute ago fades and leaves, replaced by something completely different. Even most obsessive thoughts that seem firmly rooted in mind, with attentive observation, turn out to be just as temporary guests as all others. Emotions show their changeable nature especially vividly. Anger that seemed all-consuming gradually cools and leaves. Sadness that felt like bottomless abyss slowly fills with light and transforms into something else. Even joy, to which one wants so much to attach, naturally transforms into calm satisfaction, then into neutrality. And in this observation of constant changes, special wisdom is born, wisdom of letting go. No need to cling to good, because it will change anyway. No need to push away bad, because it too will pass. You can simply allow life to flow through you, like river flows through landscape, naturally, without resistance, in its own rhythm. This wisdom extends to daily life. When you deeply understand impermanence, relationships with people become lighter and at the same time deeper. You value each meeting, knowing it's unique and unrepeatable. You don't demand others always be as you see them today, because you know people change, grow, evolve. Work ceases to be source of endless stress when you understand any situation is temporary. Difficult project will sooner or later be completed. Difficult period will pass. Even most stressful situation has its expiration date. Impermanence teaches presence. When you know this moment is only one you truly have, and that it's unrepeatable, you begin to live in it more fully. Taste of morning coffee becomes richer when you understand there will never be another morning exactly like this. Embrace of close person gains special value when you realize its uniqueness. But deepest insight into impermanence concerns very nature of what we call I. In Vipassana meditation, it gradually becomes clear that what we consider ourselves is also subject to constant changes. Body changes every second. Cells die and are born. Breath enters and exits. Heart beats in its rhythm. Thoughts replace each other in endless stream. Emotions come and go. Even deepest beliefs and ideas about oneself can transform. Where then to find that unchanging I to grasp onto? Vipassana offers revolutionary answer. Maybe it doesn't exist, this unchanging I. Maybe what we call ourselves is also process, flow, river, not static thing. This discovery can be frightening, but it can also be incredibly liberating. If there's no rigid, unchanging I, then there's infinite freedom to become anyone in each new moment. If selfhood is process, not thing, then one can consciously participate in this process, direct it, recreate oneself anew each day. In this understanding, special lightness of existence is born. Past mistakes don't define you, because one who made them has already changed. Future fears lose their sharpness, because one who will experience them will also be different by time of their realization. Only this moment remains. This inhale, this sensation, this thought, all flowing, all changing, all alive. Who are you? This question has sounded in people's minds for millennia. Philosophers built complex theories. Poets created beautiful metaphors. Scientists researched brain in search of location of selfhood. But Vipassana offers to explore this question not through reasoning, but through direct experience, through attentive observation of what we usually call ourselves. In quiet meditation room, where only sound is own breathing, practitioner of Vipassana begins amazing journey in search of one who seeks. He begins with most obvious, with body. Here are hands, here are legs, here is torso. Is this me? But body constantly changes. Cells die and are born. Blood circulates. Breath enters and exits. Moreover, one can lose arm or leg, but sense of I doesn't disappear from this. So body is not quite what we're looking for. Then maybe I is thoughts, but observation in meditation shows thoughts come and go by themselves. They arise from nowhere and disappear into nowhere. Moreover, there's someone who observes these thoughts. If I am thoughts, then who is the one looking at them? And what happens with I in those moments between thoughts when mind is completely quiet? Maybe I is emotions, feelings, but they too demonstrate their temporary nature. Joy is replaced by sadness, love by irritation, calm by excitement. And again, there's someone who experiences all this, who remains witness of all emotional storms. Then perhaps I is memory, totality of all memories that create sense of personality continuity. But memories are also changeable. Some are forgotten, others distorted by time. Still others turn out not as important as they seemed before. And most importantly, there are many life moments you don't remember, but in which you definitely were. This investigation can lead to dizzying conclusion. Perhaps what we usually call I, self, personality, simply doesn't exist as some separate, independent entity. Perhaps this is only habit of mind to create sense of center around which all experience is organized. In Buddhist tradition, this is called anatta, absence of unchanging selfhood. This doesn't mean you don't exist. You're clearly here, reading these words, breathing, thinking, feeling. But what you consider yourself turns out to be not fixed entity, but process, stream of experiences that constantly changes. Imagine river. We say Volga or Neva as if it's something permanent. But water in river is new every second. What was river a minute ago has already flowed into sea. What is river now will also leave in minute. River is not thing, it's process. And so perhaps things stand with what we call ourselves. This understanding can be frightening at first. If I'm not what I thought, then who makes decisions? Who's responsible for actions? Who loves and suffers? But gradually liberating insight comes. All this continues to happen, simply without unnecessary attachment to idea of separate I. Decisions are made, but not by some fixed I, but by entire set of factors. Wisdom accumulated through experience, current circumstances, state of body and mind. Love arises, but not as feeling of separate individual, but as natural manifestation of interconnectedness of everything with everything. Suffering happens, but it doesn't belong to some specific I. It simply is as part of universal experience of life. In Vipassana meditation, this insight comes gradually. First, you notice you can observe thoughts. Then you understand you can observe emotions. Then you discover you can observe even process of observing. And at some point, question arises, who is the one observing the observer? And here, something amazing happens. Instead of answer, comes dissolution of question itself. It turns out there's no observer separate from observed. There's simply process of awareness in which there's no subject and object. No one who looks and what's looked at. There's only pure knowledge of what's happening. This state is impossible to describe in words because language is built on division into subject and object, but it can be experienced. And when this happens, even for a moment, entire life begins to be seen anew. Painful sense of separation from world disappears. No more I here and world there. There's single process of life in which what seemed like individual consciousness turns out to be simply one of manifestations of universal awareness. Fear of death disappears because you understand there's nothing to die. Process of life will continue in other forms, other ways. What seemed like personal death turns out to be simply one of transformations in endless dance of existence. Egotistical greed also disappears because it becomes clear there's no separate I that could acquire something for itself. There's only life that manifests through countless forms, and care for any of these forms turns out to be care for whole. This doesn't mean individuality disappears. Personality remains with all its peculiarities, preferences, talents. But it's no longer perceived as something separate and opposed to rest of world. It becomes unique expression of single life. Like each wave on ocean surface is unique while remaining ocean. And then life gains special lightness and at same time special depth. Lightness because there's no longer heavy burden of maintaining and protecting separate I. Depth, because each moment is experienced as manifestation of limitless mystery of existence. Why do we suffer? This question has sounded in people's hearts since consciousness capable of asking questions appeared. Pain seems inherent part of human existence. Bodies get sick, hearts break, plans collapse, loved ones leave, and in these moments, life can seem cruel, unjust, meaningless. But being 25 centuries ago, under that very Bodhi tree, where golden light of dawn slowly drove away pre-dawn coolness, one man made revolutionary discovery. Suffering, he understood, has cause. And if suffering has cause, then there's possibility to eliminate this cause. And if cause can be eliminated, then there's path to freedom from suffering. This discovery formed basis of what will later be called Four Noble Truths. First truth: suffering exists. This is not pessimism. This is realism. Recognition of fact that pain is part of human experience. Second truth: suffering has cause. Third, suffering can be ended. Fourth, there exists path leading to cessation of suffering. In Vipassana, suffering becomes not enemy to be defeated, but teacher who can reveal deepest secrets of human existence. When you sit in meditation, and suddenly pain arises in back or leg, first impulse is to change position, remove discomfort. But Vipassana offers different approach. Carefully investigate very nature of suffering. What is pain? Is it simply unpleasant sensations in certain part of body? But why do we call some sensations pain and others simply sensations? Why can light tingling in hand be interesting, while same tingling in aching tooth becomes excruciating? With careful investigation, it's discovered that what we call suffering consists of two components. First is unpleasant sensations themselves. They're inevitable, part of life in body. But second component is our attitude toward these sensations, our resistance to them, our desire for them to be different. And it's precisely this second component that turns simple, unpleasant sensations into suffering. Ancient teachers explained this through metaphor of two arrows. First arrow is pain itself, unpleasantness, loss. This arrow flies from external world and hits us. We cannot avoid it. Such is nature of life. But second arrow is our reaction to first, our resistance, our thoughts about how terrible, unfair, unbearable this is. This second arrow we shoot into ourselves, and often it causes more pain than first. In practice of Vipassana, you learn to distinguish these two arrows. When physical pain arises, you can observe sensations themselves, their intensity, quality, localization, and separately observe your reaction to these sensations, arising thoughts of resistance, emotional reactions, desire for everything to be different. And here, amazing discovery happens. When you stop fighting pain, when you accept it as temporary guest in house of your consciousness, it often loses its excruciating sharpness. Pain may remain, but suffering, additional component of resistance, begins to dissolve. This doesn't mean you should seek pain or enjoy it, but it means you can change your attitude toward inevitable difficulties of life. Illness will still be illness, but won't carry additional burden of despair. Loss will still be loss, but won't be accompanied by destructive anger at fate. Deepest cause of suffering, Vipassana reveals, lies in our fundamental non-acceptance of how life is arranged. We want pleasant to last forever and unpleasant never to come. We want to control what cannot be controlled. We cling to what is by nature impermanent. This clinging, this thirst for permanence in world of changes, is root of suffering. Not life events themselves, but our non-acceptance of their natural flow. Not pain itself, but our demand that it not be there. Not loss itself, but our inability to let go of what has already left. In meditation, this becomes obvious. Pleasant sensation arises, and mind immediately wants to hold it, make it permanent. Unpleasant thought appears, and mind immediately tries to get rid of it. Boredom comes, and mind starts seeking entertainment. This constant desire to change what is source of inner restlessness. But Vipassana shows different path of acceptance. Not passive resignation, but active, conscious agreement with how life unfolds in given moment. This doesn't mean refusal of actions to change circumstances, but it means inner peace with what is right now. When this acceptance comes, suffering doesn't completely disappear. Life remains life with all its challenges, but extra layer of torment disappears that we usually add to inevitable difficulties. Pure pain remains without admixture of suffering. Pure sadness remains without admixture of despair. Pure fear remains without admixture of panic. And in this purity, in this acceptance, even difficult emotions gain special dignity, special beauty. Sadness for departed loved one becomes not torment, but form of love. Fear of uncertain future becomes not panic, but manifestation of thirst for life. Even anger at injustice can become not destructive force, but energy for positive changes. Suffering in Vipassana becomes portal to compassion. When you deeply understand nature of your suffering, when you see how it arises and how it dissolves, heart naturally opens to suffering of others. You understand each person carries their pain. Each struggles with their inner demons. Each seeks happiness and tries to avoid suffering. This understanding gives birth not to pity, condescending feeling toward weak, but compassion, deep sympathy for common lot of all living beings. And in this compassion, suffering gains meaning. It becomes bridge connecting hearts, path to understanding unity of all life. Imagine acrobat on tightrope, walking high above ground without safety net. Each step requires perfect balance. Too much left, fall. Too much right, also fall. But when balance is found, movement becomes graceful, almost dance-like. There's something in this image that deeply reflects essence of Vipassana. Search for inner balance that allows moving through life with wisdom and grace. In ancient texts, this state is called upekkha, word difficult to translate into modern languages. This is not indifference as sometimes understood. This is not cold detachment from life. Upekkha is rather perfect equanimity of mind that remained calm and clear regardless of what's happening around. In quiet courtyard of ancient monastery, where evening light softly falls on stone paths and air is filled with aroma of blooming trees, monk sits in deep meditation. Bird flies to him and lands on the shoulder. He remains motionless. Rain begins. Drops fall on his clothing. He doesn't move. Somewhere in distance, voices are heard, sounds of daily life. They don't disturb his peace. But this is not petrification, not lifelessness. In his stillness, there's living awareness. He feels birds' touch, senses each drop of rain, hears all sounds, but nothing takes him out of balance, doesn't make him lose inner center. This equanimity is not innate quality. It develops gradually through patient practice. At beginning of Vipassana path, mind is like monkey that cannot sit still. Pleasant experience, and it joyfully gets excited. Unpleasant, and it falls into despondency. Neutral, and it becomes bored, starts seeking entertainment. But as practice deepens, these fluctuations become less sharp. Joy remains joy, but it no longer makes head spin. Sadness remains sadness, but it no longer plunges into despair. Boredom remains boredom, but it doesn't demand immediate flight into distractions. Mind's equilibrium in Vipassana develops through observation of opposites, pleasant and unpleasant, excitement and calming, desire and aversion, attachment and rejection. Gradually, understanding comes. All these states are temporary. All come and go. And there's something in you that remains stable, that can observe all these changes without losing own center. This something is not thing that can be judged or conceptually understood. It's rather quality of awareness, ability to be present with what is without losing yourself in it and without pushing it away. Like sky remains sky, regardless of whether weather is clear or hurricane rages. So this inner balance remains unchanged amid all life's storms. In practice of Vipassana, balance develops through work with three main mind reactions: desire, aversion, and indifference. When something pleasant arises, natural reaction is desire to hold this, get more. When unpleasant arises, naturally want to get rid of this, push away. When experience is neutral, mind often falls into dullness, loses interest. But Vipassana teaches fourth way of reacting: attentive observation without preferences. Pleasant experience is noticed as pleasant, but without greed. Unpleasant is noticed as unpleasant, but without rejection. Neutral is noticed as neutral, but without loss of awareness. This requires patience and persistence. Mind's habitual reactions formed over years, and they don't surrender easily. Again and again in meditation, you notice how mind reaches for pleasant or pushes away unpleasant. And again, you gently return it to position of neutral observer. Gradually, this practice begins to penetrate daily life. Someone gave you compliment, and you notice light pleasure, but don't inflate it to size of pride. Someone expressed criticism, and you feel prick, but don't allow it to turn into destructive anger. In traffic jam, irritation arises, and you notice it, accept it, but don't feed it with additional thoughts about injustice of world. Mind's equilibrium especially vividly manifests in attitude toward success and failure, praise and blame, gain and loss. These are pairs of opposites that usually very strongly influence our inner state. But person who has developed upekkha meets both with same calmness. This doesn't mean he doesn't rejoice in success or isn't saddened by losses. Emotions remain, but they don't capture him completely. He rejoices in success, but doesn't attach to it. He's saddened by failure, but doesn't despair. He values praise, but doesn't depend on it. He considers criticism, but isn't destroyed by it. In deep Vipassana meditation, sometimes states of such perfect equilibrium arise that even distinction between internal and external disappears. There's no meditator and object of meditation, no observer and observed. There's only pure awareness in which everything exists in perfect harmony. These states cannot be called forth by willpower. They arise by themselves as fruit of mature practice, and when they come, they leave indelible mark on understanding. It becomes clear balance need not be created or maintained. It already is as fundamental quality of awareness, need only stop disturbing it with reactions and preferences. This understanding radically changes attitude to life. Problems don't disappear, challenges don't cease. But there's inner support that never fails. There's center of silence to which one can always return. There's balance that allows meeting any circumstances with dignity and wisdom. In human heart, there's place larger than all oceans of world. It's capable of containing not only own joys and sorrows, but joys and sorrows of all living beings. This place is called compassion, and Vipassana is one of most direct paths to its opening. Compassion is not born from pity or sense of superiority. It arises from deep understanding of unity of all life. When you, in meditation, clearly see nature of own suffering, how it arises, how it causes pain, how it dissolves, heart naturally opens to understanding that same suffering is experienced by everyone else. Sitting in silence of meditation room, where only sound is own breath, you suddenly clearly understand person in neighboring apartment also breathes, also experiences ups and downs of mood, also knows pain of loss and joy of meeting. Somewhere in another city, someone now cannot fall asleep from anxiety. That very anxiety you know so well. In another country, someone cries from grief. That grief you too once experienced. This understanding comes not as intellectual concept, but as living feeling of connectedness. Boundaries between me and not me begin to blur. Another person's pain resonates in your heart, not because you force yourself to feel it, but because you understand this is same pain you yourself experience, only in different form. Vipassana shows that compassion is not emotion to be cultivated, and not virtue to be developed by willpower. This is natural state of heart that opens by itself when barriers of egoism and separateness dissolve. These barriers are created by fear, mistrust, defense mechanisms that formed over years. We're used to thinking our survival depends on opposing ourselves to world, on defending our interests against others' interests. But Vipassana meditation gradually shows error of this approach. When you deeply understand impermanence of all phenomena, it becomes clear there's nothing permanent that could be protected. When you realize absence of fixed selfhood, one who must defend disappears. When you accept suffering as inherent part of existence, you stop blaming others for your difficulties. In this dissolution of barriers, heart opens like flower in sun. At first, compassion may extend only to close people, family, friends, those dear to you. This is natural and normal. But as practice deepens, circle of compassion expands. You begin to understand that even people who cause harm do so from their own pain, from their own misunderstanding of nature of happiness. Person who is aggressive is often himself frightened. One who is greedy usually feels inner emptiness. Who is envious doesn't believe in own value. And their pain, too, deserves sympathy, even if their behavior is unacceptable. Compassion. Vipassana doesn't mean agreement with all people's actions or refusal to establish boundaries. You can sympathize with person's pain and at the same time clearly say no to their harmful behavior. You can understand reasons for others' mistakes and simultaneously not allow these mistakes to harm you or others. True compassion is wise. It sees not only suffering, but also potential for liberation from suffering. It responds not only to pain, but to possibility of healing. Therefore, compassionate person doesn't simply pity others, but does everything possible to reduce suffering in world. Sometimes this means active help. Feed hungry. Comfort suffering. Protect defenseless. Sometimes it means simply presence. Be near person in difficult moment. Listen without judgment. Give understanding. And sometimes, most compassionate thing you can do is work on own liberation from suffering, because only free person can effectively help others gain freedom. In deep Vipassana meditation, sometimes moments happen when compassion becomes boundless. It extends not only to people, but to all living beings, animals, plants, even to earth itself, air, water. Clear understanding arises that everything in this world is interconnected, that suffering of one reflects on all, and healing of one contributes to healing of whole. These experiences leave deep mark on heart. After them, it's impossible to live as you lived before. Thought of causing harm to any being becomes unbearable. Natural desire arises to live so that each action, each word, even each thought contributes to reducing suffering and increasing happiness in world. Compassion, born from Vipassana, is not sentimental and not naive. It's based on clear seeing of reality. It knows world is full of pain, but also knows that this pain can be freed from. It sees darkness in human hearts, but also sees light that can dispel this darkness. And in this compassion, entire practice of Vipassana finds its completion. Wisdom, developed in meditation, finds its natural expression in love for all living. Understanding of impermanence teaches to value each moment of meeting with another being. Insight into absence of separate selfhood opens unity of all life. Acceptance of suffering as part of existence gives birth to boundless sympathy for all who suffer. Compassion becomes not feeling that sometimes arises, but way of existence. It colors every interaction with world, makes every meeting possibility for healing. Every moment chance to bring little more light into common darkness of human misunderstanding. Vipassana doesn't end when you rise from meditation cushion. It's not limited to quiet room or specially allocated time for practice. True Vipassana is way of life, way of presence in each moment with same awareness that develops in formal meditation. Imagine person who after many months of practice rises from meditation and goes to kitchen to prepare breakfast. But he doesn't simply go. He consciously transfers body weight from one leg to other, feels how feet touch floor, how air moves around him with each step. This is no longer ordinary walking. This is meditation in motion. In kitchen, he turns on water, and sound of flowing stream attracts his attention, not as background noise, but as living symphony of moment. He washes hands, feeling water temperature, sensing each movement of palms, takes apple, and before biting, pauses for moment, notices color of skin, inhales aroma, feels weight of fruit in hand. This is Vipassana in daily life, complete presence in most ordinary actions. Each moment becomes possibility for practice, each experience chance to deepen awareness. Walking meditation is one of most accessible and at same time deep practices of Vipassana. You can walk in garden, around room, on city street. Place is not so important. Important is quality of attention you bring to process of movement. Begins simply. You walk slower than usual, directing attention to sensations in feet and legs, lifting foot, moving it forward, lowering to ground. In each step, you can distinguish many separate movements, each of which has its quality, its texture of sensations. But walking is not only movement of legs, It's coordinated work of entire body, light swinging of arms, balancing of torso, constant micro-corrections of balance, and all these processes happen by themselves, without participation of thinking mind, in perfect wisdom of body. As attention deepens, walking becomes as dance, with gravity, play with balance, continuous dialogue between body and earth. Each step is unique. Each moment of foot contact with surface is unrepeatable. And in this uniqueness, in this unrepeatability, same truth of impermanence opens that manifests in sitting meditation. Mindful eating is another powerful practice of integrating Vipassana into daily life. In a world where food is often consumed mechanically, between tasks, to accompaniment of television or smartphone, mindful eating becomes revolutionary act of presence. You sit at table with simple plate of food. Maybe it's rice with vegetables, maybe piece of bread with butter. Doesn't matter what exactly. What matters is how. First, you simply look at food. Notice colors, shapes, textures. Inhale aroma, allowing it to fill nostrils and perhaps cause salivation in anticipation. First piece you put in mouth, but don't hurry to chew. First you sense temperature, texture, first notes of taste on tongue. Only then begin slowly chewing, noticing how sensations change, how new layers of taste are released, how food gradually breaks down and mixes with saliva. In this slow, attentive process, eating ceases to be simply fuel for body. It becomes teacher of presence, way of connecting with present moment, possibility to experience gratitude to earth that produced this food, to people who grew and delivered it, to sun and rain, without which nothing could grow. Mindful communication is perhaps most difficult and at same time most important aspect of integrating Vipassana into life. When you talk with another person, are you fully present in this interaction? Or is part of you already planning what to say next? Part analyzing what was said? Part thinking about your affairs? Mindful communication begins with full presence. You listen not only to words of interlocutor, but hear intonation. Notice facial expressions. Feel emotional state behind words. You're present not only with mind, but with heart. Not only as receiver of information, but as living person meeting another living person. When you speak yourself, you notice motivations behind words, desire to make impression, need to be understood, striving to convince, or simply share experience. You feel how words form in mind before becoming sounds, how they're colored by emotions, how they influence atmosphere of conversation. In mindful communication, there's no rush to get to your point of view. There's space for pause, for silence, for words of interlocutor to truly reach heart before formulating response. There's readiness to be surprised, learn something new, change your opinion. Even conflict situations become opportunity for practice when approached with awareness. Anger that arises in response to someone's words or actions can be noticed at moment of its arising. You can feel how it lives in body, tightness in chest, tension in jaws, quickening of pulse. And in this noticing, there's already space for choice, to act from anger automatically or respond from wiser place. Vipassana in daily life teaches that there are no worldly tasks and spiritual practices as separate categories. Washing dishes can be meditation if done with full presence. Ride in public transport can become time for observing mind. Standing in line, opportunity to practice patience and acceptance. Each sound, phone ringing, dog barking outside window, children's laughter in yard, can become object of meditative attention. No need to analyze or evaluate them, enough to simply hear them as they are. Allow them to be part of current moment. Each sensation in body, fatigue at end of day, hunger before lunch, warmth of sun on skin, can become reminder to return to present moment, exit from a stream of thoughts about past and future. Each emotion, joy from meeting friend, sadness from parting, irritation from bus delay, can become opportunity to practice acceptance, observation without resistance, understanding of impermanent nature of all mind states. As Vipassana integrates into daily life, boundary between practice and life begins to blur. All life becomes one big meditation, one continuous investigation of nature of experience. And in this investigation, each moment possesses potential for insight. Each experience can become teacher on path to understanding. In deepest Vipassana meditation, there are moments when entire familiar world of thoughts, sensations, and emotions quiets. Silence comes of such quality that's impossible to compare with anything. This is not simply absence of sounds. It's absence of mental noise, inner chatter, constant commentary on what's happening. In these moments, mind becomes like absolutely calm water surface of mountain lake. There's not slightest ripple that could distort sky's reflection, no wind that could create waves. There's only perfect stillness in which sky and water become indistinguishable. This silence between thoughts is not emptiness. On contrary, it's full of presence, full of awareness, but awareness of special quality. In it, there's no one who is aware and what is being aware of. No subject and object. There's only pure knowledge without content, being without becoming, presence without form. These states cannot be reached by effort. They come by themselves as fruit of long practice, as natural unfolding of awareness. Attempt to call them forth is like trying to calm water by waving hands in it. Action opposite to goal. But when these moments come, they leave indelible mark on understanding. It becomes clear what we usually take for reality, for norm of existence, is actually only surface layer of much deeper ocean of consciousness. Thoughts that seem so important and insistent in ordinary state turn out to be like clouds that come and go across sky. They have no permanent substance, no inherent reality. They arise from silence and to silence return. In these moments of deep peace, often insights come that are impossible to obtain in ordinary state of mind, understandings that aren't formulated in words, but radically change perception of life. These are not intellectual epiphanies, but rather shifts in very foundation of how existence is experienced. Sometimes in this silence, understanding opens that time too is mind's construction. Past and future turn out to be mental constructs that exist only in thoughts. Reality always unfolds in present moment that has no duration. That's always now. Sometimes sense of individual boundaries dissolves. What seemed like my body, my thoughts, my experiences turns out to be part of single field of consciousness in which there are no separate elements, but only different modulations of same awareness. Sometimes understanding comes of what was sought all life: happiness, love, peace, meaning, actually was never lost. It's always here, in very foundation of existence, in that silence that lies at basis of all sounds, in that peace that's never disturbed even by most turbulent emotions. But these states are not goal of Vipassana. They're rather pointers showing direction in which consciousness movement is possible. Attempt to cling to them, make them permanent, turns them into yet another form of attachment. True wisdom lies in valuing these moments of deep peace when they come and letting them go when they leave with same equilibrium with which any other experience is met. They're like rare and precious flowers that bloom in garden of consciousness, beautiful, inspiring, but by their nature impermanent. Returning from these depths of silence to ordinary state of consciousness, practitioner carries with them something changed, even when thoughts return, even when mind again fills with daily concerns, memory remains of that silence, knowledge of that peace that's always accessible under surface of mental activity. This memory becomes source of inner confidence. Whatever happens in life, whatever storms rage on mind's surface, somewhere in depth, there's always this place of absolute peace. And to it, one can always return, diving deeper than ordinary level of consciousness. Silence between thoughts teaches that world is not as it seems. Under visible complexity and chaos of life lies perfect order. Under apparent separateness of all phenomena hides fundamental unity. Under constant movement and change rests eternal stillness. And this knowledge changes everything, even returning to daily tasks, to thoughts and concerns. Understanding remains that all this is only play on surface of limitless ocean of consciousness, beautiful play, meaningful, deserving full participation, but still play, not ultimate reality. For centuries, people sought liberation somewhere in future, in next life, in distant paradise, at final point of long spiritual path. But Vipassana reveals one of most revolutionary truths. Liberation is available here and now, in this very moment, however ordinary or even difficult it may seem. Nirvana is not place where you can come and not state that can be achieved in future. Nirvana is another name for complete acceptance of what already is. When resistance to life completely ceases, when there's no longer desire for present moment to be somehow different, this is liberation. Sitting in meditation, in morning, when first rays of sun break through curtains and birds begin their songs, you suddenly understand everything you sought is already here. Happiness you craved is not hidden somewhere in future. It's in this breath, in this moment of silence, in this simple fact of existence. World hasn't changed. In it, there's still pain and joy, losses and gains, meetings and partings. But your attitude to world has transformed radically. You no longer demand life be different. You don't fight unpleasant experiences and don't cling to pleasant ones. You simply are present with what is, with open heart and clear mind. This acceptance is not passive. It doesn't mean refusal of actions, of aspirations, of care for future. But all these actions now come not from sense of lack, not from conviction that something is wrong with present moment. They arise from fullness, from gratitude for opportunity to participate in great dance of life. When there's no longer inner war with reality, enormous amount of energy is freed that was previously spent on resistance. This energy becomes available for creativity, for love, for service, for joy from simple fact of being. Liberation in Vipassana is not heroic. It's not accompanied by fanfares or supernatural phenomena. It's rather quiet recognition of what was always truth, but remained unnoticed. Like person who long sought glasses suddenly discovers they were on forehead all along. In this recognition, there's both laughter and tears. Laughter at absurdity of how long you sought outside what was always inside. Tears of compassion for own past suffering and for suffering of all those who still seek in wrong direction. But main thing is incredible simplicity of liberation. It doesn't require becoming someone else, doesn't require achieving supernatural abilities or entering altered states of consciousness. It requires only one thing: completely accept yourself and world as they are right now. To accept doesn't mean agree with everything or refuse desire for changes. To accept means stop inner war with what's already happening. You can simultaneously accept illness and treat it, can accept injustice and work to eliminate it, can accept your shortcomings and work to overcome them. But all this will happen from completely different inner space, not from feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with you or world, but from natural movement of life toward greater harmony, beauty, love. In deep Vipassana, meditation, sometimes moments come when distinction between samsara and nirvana, suffering and liberation, completely disappears. It becomes clear these are only different ways of perceiving same reality. Samsara is life experienced through prism of resistance and clinging. Nirvana is same life experienced through prism of acceptance and letting go. This world, this life, this moment is nirvana when approached with right understanding. No need to go anywhere, achieve anything, become someone. Need only see what's already here in way Vipassana teaches, with clarity, acceptance, and boundless kindness to oneself and all that exists. And then each breath becomes act of liberation. Each step, dance of enlightened being. Each word, expression of boundless wisdom. Not because you became special, but because you saw specialness of what was always ordinary. After deep immersion in Vipassana practice comes time of return to world. But this return is not departure from spiritual path, but its natural continuation. True test of any insight is how it manifests in daily life, in relationships with people, in reaction to life's challenges. Wisdom gained in meditation, silence asks for embodiment in world. Compassion opened in heart seeks ways of expression. Understanding of unity of all living wants to become concrete actions that reduce suffering and increase happiness. Sometimes this service takes obvious forms. Person becomes meditation teacher, counselor, helping others cope with difficulties, volunteer in charitable organizations. But more often, service manifests in less noticeable, but no less important forms. Parent who is fully present with children, without being distracted by phone or inner worries, serves awakening of next generation. Driver who doesn't give in to road aggression and maintains calm in traffic. Jam adds drops of peace to ocean of urban stress. Store clerk who meets each customer with sincere attention and kindness transforms routine purchase into moment of human warmth. Vipassana teaches there are no small actions when performed from space of awareness and compassion. Smile to stranger on street can change course of their day. Patient listening to upset friend can become healing balm for their soul. Refusal to participate in gossip and judgment can create island of purity in ocean of negativity. But most important service is simply being example of possibility to live differently. When people see someone who remains calm in stressful situations, who doesn't lose kindness even in conflicts, who radiates inner peace regardless of circumstances, hope awakens in them. They understand. Perhaps for them too, there's path to such inner freedom. Return to world after deep practice can be accompanied by challenges. Intensity of daily life, conflicts with people who live on completely different principles, pressure of social expectations. All this can at times seem like obstacle on path. But Vipassana teaches to meet these challenges, too, as opportunities for practice. Irritating colleague becomes teacher of patience. Financial difficulties, opportunity to practice non-attachment to material. Criticism and misunderstanding, chance to develop inner stability independent of others' opinions. Gradually, it becomes clear there are no situations that would be obstacle to practice. Any circumstances can become fertilizer for growth of wisdom and compassion. Even most difficult periods of life carry potential for deepest insights. And then all life becomes retreat. All activity, meditation. All meetings, opportunity for service. There's no longer division into spiritual time and worldly time, into sacred places and ordinary places. All life is consecrated by presence. All activity is permeated by awareness. Path of Vipassana has no end. Even after deep insights, even after moments of complete liberation, practice continues. Not because something is still not achieved, but because very nature of life is continuous unfolding, endless deepening of understanding. Each day brings new nuances in understanding impermanence. Each interaction with people opens new facets of compassion. Each life challenge becomes possibility for deeper acceptance. Vipassana is not technique that's learned, but way of existence that's perfected all life. In this endless journey, there's special joy, constant discovery, wonder, growth. Life never becomes boring or predictable, because each moment is unique, each experience possibility for new understanding. And at same time, there's deep peace, peace of one who knows they're already home, that there's nothing more to seek, that everything necessary for happiness and freedom is already here and now. This paradox, simultaneously completeness and endlessness of path, is perhaps deepest mystery of Vipassana. In end, when sun sets below horizon and evening silence envelops world, simple understanding remains. Vipassana is not something you do. It's who you are. Not technique you apply, but way of being present in life. Not path to enlightenment, but enlightenment itself, unfolding in each moment of conscious existence. And silence, with which everything began, remains. It sounds in each breath, shines in each glance, lives in each touch. Silence that was always and always will be. Foundation of all sounds, space of all forms, heart of all existence. In this silence is home to which Vipassana leads, home that was never left but could go unnoticed, home where each moment is return, each breath is arrival, each experience is meeting with what was always here, patiently awaiting recognition.